When the world sleeps, shadows awaken. This is where the forgotten tales breathe again. Welcome to Dark Night Story.
Imagine driving down a quiet country road in eastern Connecticut. The clock strikes midnight. The trees press close to the narrow lane, and your headlights illuminate a thin mist that hovers just above the ground. Then, suddenly, you see her. A pale woman in a flowing white dress, drifting along the side of the road. Her face is obscured by a long veil of dark hair, and before you can react, she steps directly into your path. You slam the brakes, your heart races, the car jolts to a stop, and when you look again, she's gone. For nearly a century, locals have whispered about her, the White Lady of Union Cemetery. Some call her a ghost, others a legend, but to those who have seen her, there's no question, she is real. Union Cemetery, located in eastern Connecticut, is over 400 years old. It dates back to the 1600s, making it one of the oldest burial grounds in New England. Its weathered gravestones stand crookedly among the grass, many of them bearing names that time has nearly erased. This cemetery has been the setting for countless paranormal reports. Visitors speak of glowing orbs, disembodied voices, and shadows that dart between the tombstones. But one spirit stands above all others, the White Lady. Nobody knows her true identity. Some say she was a woman from the 1800s who died giving birth. Others believe she was a grieving mother searching for her lost child. There's even a theory that she was murdered and left near the cemetery, her soul forever bound to the place where she cannot rest. The stories differ, but the description remains the same. A woman dressed in a flowing white nightgown or wedding dress. Long, dark hair covering her pale face. Appearing suddenly, often on Route 59, the road that runs beside the cemetery. In the 1990s, a respected police officer, who later spoke to paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, reported seeing the White Lady while on patrol. He described a woman suddenly appearing in front of his cruiser. He braked hard, certain he had struck her. But when he leapt out of the car, there was no one there. The road was empty. His account, coming from a trained and credible officer, gave the legend new weight. Another local resident told of driving past the cemetery just after midnight. A figure in white appeared on the roadside, drifting as if in a dream. The driver slowed down, thinking it was a person in distress. But as their headlights passed her, the figure dissolved into mist. Shaken, the driver pulled over, but there was nothing, not even footprints. Perhaps the most famous connection to Union Cemetery is through Ed and Lorraine Warren, the legendary paranormal investigators whose cases inspired the Conjuring films. The Warrens claim to have captured actual video footage of the White Lady. According to Ed Warren, the figure was seen gliding across the cemetery grounds, luminous and unmistakably human in form. Though the footage has never been widely released, their testimony alone has fueled decades of fascination.
Union Cemetery by day looks like any other historic graveyard. Quiet, solemn, peaceful. But at night, locals say the place changes. The silence deepens. The shadows lengthen. Visitors have reported sudden cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and faint whispers in the darkness. And always, always, the possibility of the White Lady's appearance. Skeptics argue that the White Lady is nothing more than a trick of the light, mist rising from the ground, headlights reflecting off the stones, or the mind playing tricks in the darkness. But believers insist otherwise. There are simply too many witnesses, police officers, truck drivers, teenagers, and even paranormal experts. Is she the spirit of a mother searching for her lost child? A restless bride who never made it to the altar? Or something older, something tied to the land itself? Some of the most terrifying reports involve cars. Drivers have sworn they struck the white lady head-on, hearing the sickening thump, feeling the impact, only to discover there was no body, no damage, nothing at all. Imagine the horror of believing you've killed someone, only to realize you've encountered something not of this world. Union Cemetery remains closed at night, patrolled by police, yet the legend endures. The White Lady is said to appear most often in the hours after midnight, especially during late summer and fall. To this day, locals avoid driving near the cemetery at night, and those who dare often find themselves slowing as they approach, their eyes searching the shadows along Route 59. Will they see her? Will you? Perhaps the next time you find yourself on a lonely road in Easton, Connecticut, past the stone gates of Union Cemetery, you'll remember this story. And maybe, just maybe, she'll be waiting.
Next story. There is a place just outside of Chicago, hidden behind tangled woods, overgrown paths, and rusting iron gates. A place where time seems to stop, and where the dead are said to walk among the living. Its name? Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. For decades, this small, neglected graveyard has been called one of the most haunted places in America. Here, witnesses report glowing orbs, phantom vehicles, ghostly women, and even restless animals that prowl the darkness. Some who visit leave shaken. Others never speak of what they saw. And many believe that once you step into Bachelor's Grove, the spirits step into you. Bachelor's Grove is older than it looks. Established in the early 1800s, it began as a peaceful burial ground for early settlers. But with time, the cemetery fell into ruin. Gravestones were toppled, graves were desecrated. Teenagers and vandals broke in at night, performing strange rituals, spray-painting crosses, and disturbing the dead. Some say it was this disrespect that awakened something darker, unleashing the hauntings that continue to this day. The most famous spirit of Bachelor's Grove is known as the White Lady, sometimes called the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. Witnesses describe her as a young woman dressed in glowing white, often seen carrying a baby in her arms. She is said to wander the cemetery paths at night, searching the graves with sorrowful eyes, as if looking for something she lost long ago. Photographs have even captured her, most famously an image from the 1990s showing a transparent woman sitting on a broken tombstone. That single photograph became one of the most circulated ghost images in history. Another legend of Bachelor's Grove involves a phantom car. For years, drivers along the nearby road have reported a black 1940s-style vehicle. It appears suddenly in the rearview mirror, its headlights burning bright. The car speeds up behind them, swerves dangerously close, and then vanishes into thin air. Locals believe this ghostly vehicle is tied to Chicago's dark Prohibition past, when gangsters and bootleggers were said to dump bodies near the cemetery pond. At the heart of the cemetery lies a dark, stagnant pond. Fishermen and wanderers alike have reported strange sights here, shadowy figures rising from the water, glowing red eyes beneath the surface, and the sound of voices echoing across the stillness. According to legend, the pond was once used as a dumping ground by mobsters. Dozens of bodies are rumored to rest at the bottom, their restless spirits now calling out from below. Some say the pond itself is cursed, that if you stare too long into its depths, you may see faces staring back. Ghostly animals,
Visitors have reported spectral dogs and horses roaming the grounds, vanishing when approached. One tale tells of a ghostly black dog that appears suddenly, only to disappear as a person draws near. Disembodied voices, whispering, cries, and even laughter have been heard in the darkness. Paranormal investigators with recorders have captured chilling EVPs, faint voices pleading for help or calling out names. Floating orbs and lights, blue and red lights have been seen dancing among the trees. Some claim these orbs follow visitors as though guiding or warning them.
Over the years, countless people have come forward with first-hand experiences. One man claimed he was grabbed by invisible hands near a headstone, held so tightly he could not breathe until he fled the cemetery. A group of teenagers once swore they saw a woman in white emerge from the woods, walk across the pond's surface, and vanish into mist. Paranormal investigators reported equipment failing, batteries drained, and cameras capturing figures that could not be seen by the naked eye. Why is Bachelor's Grove so haunted? Some believe the vandalism of graves angered the spirits, leaving them restless and vengeful. Others tie the hauntings to the violent mob past of Chicago, with bodies secretly buried in the cemetery and pond. Still others think the land itself is cursed, an intersection of energy that draws spirits and traps them. Skeptics argue it's nothing more than imagination, urban legend, and the power of suggestion. But even skeptics grow silent when shown the photograph of the White Lady. Bachelor's Grove remains abandoned, though ghost hunters and thrill seekers still sneak inside. But locals warn, the cemetery does not welcome visitors lightly. Some who enter claim to feel sick, drained, or cursed afterward. And some whisper that if you disrespect the dead in Bachelor's Grove, you might not leave alone. Bachelor's Grove is more than just a forgotten cemetery. It is a place where sorrow lingers, where legends walk, and where shadows whisper to those brave or foolish enough to enter. And if you ever find yourself on that lonely road outside Chicago, past the rusted gates and into the dark woods, remember this: you might not be walking there alone. The White Lady may already be watching, and in Bachelor's Grove, the dead do not rest.
Next story. In the heart of Dublin, Ireland, lies a sprawling necropolis, a city of the dead that houses over 1.5 million souls beneath its soil. Its name is Glasnevin Cemetery, and for generations, whispers have claimed that here, the silence of the dead is often broken by voices. Echoes of the past, ghostly cries, and conversations no living throat could ever produce. Some call them echoes of history. Others swear they are voices of the restless dead, demanding to be heard. Glasnevin Cemetery was established in 1832 by the great Irish leader Daniel O'Connell. At the time, Catholics were often denied proper burial. Glasnevin was built as a place of equality, where people of all faiths, and even those with none, could be laid to rest. But with such noble beginnings came tragedy. Famine victims, political martyrs, rebels, poets, and ordinary Dubliners all found their way here. The land is thick with history, with grief, and with stories never told. And it is said that so many souls in one place have created a weight on the air, a spiritual pressure that sometimes leaks into our world as voices of the dead. Visitors and night guards report a strange phenomenon. Walking between the towering Celtic crosses and stone angels, they hear whispers, sometimes soft, like a breeze carrying fragments of conversation, other times clear and unmistakable, men shouting, women weeping, prayers spoken in Irish Gaelic. Yet when they turn to look, the cemetery is empty. Paranormal investigators with recorders have captured these sounds, unexplained EVPs that play back chilling voices. A man shouting, "Go!" A woman crying out, "Don't leave me!" And even voices reciting prayers long after the living congregation had left. The voices are not the only phenomenon. Shadowy figures have been seen drifting between graves, dark human shapes, tall and thin, sometimes standing motionless beside headstones. They vanish when approached, but leave behind the chilling certainty that you were not alone. One guard claimed he saw a figure pacing along the boundary wall late at night. He thought it was a trespasser, until the figure simply dissolved into mist. Glasnevin is also the resting place of many Irish heroes. Among the most visited graves is that of Michael Collins, the revolutionary leader assassinated in 1922. Mourners often speak of feeling a strong presence near his grave. Some say they hear whispers when laying flowers, an almost protective voice urging them onward. Others claim to see a soldierly figure in uniform watching over the area, fading as quickly as he appears.
One of the most unsettling reports from Glasnevin involves the children's section. Here lie hundreds of young victims of famine, disease, and hardship. Visitors often report hearing laughter, tiny footsteps, and even the sound of children playing, but always in the dead of night when the cemetery should be silent. A Dublin mother once swore she heard a child calling "Mammy" from between the graves. She searched frantically, but there was no child to be found. At the heart of Glasnevin stands the Grand O'Connell Tower, a towering monument above the crypt of Daniel O'Connell himself. Workers maintaining the crypt have reported echoes within, voices that bounce unnaturally, even when no one is speaking. Some say the founder himself still guards the cemetery, his voice resonating from the stone walls. Others believe the crypts and vaults beneath the cemetery act as conduits, trapping voices and releasing them like ghostly recordings of the past. A night watchman reported hearing two men in heated argument by the gates. He rushed outside and found no one there. A tourist claimed her phone recorded an old man's voice saying, "Welcome home," while she stood by a famine grave. Paranormal groups captured multiple EVPs in Irish, phrases that none of the investigators understood until translated later. Why does Glasnevin echo with voices? Some believe it is simply the power of suggestion, minds tricked by the atmosphere of so many graves. Others claim it's residual energy, emotions imprinted into the very ground, replaying like broken records. And the more spiritual believe that these are direct communications, the dead still speaking, unwilling to let go of the world they left behind. Glasnevin is still active, still visited daily by families paying respect. But when the gates close and the Dublin fog creeps through the iron fences, the air grows heavy. If you listen closely, you may hear them. The faint voices of Glasnevin, some pleading, some weeping, others still fighting battles long since lost. And if you hear your name whispered among them, it may already be too late. Glasnevin Cemetery is not just a resting place. It is a city of the dead, alive with voices of history, sorrow, and mystery. And those who dare to walk its paths after dark must remember, the silence of the grave is never truly silent, and in Glasnevin, the dead still speak.
Next story. In the heart of Buenos Aires, Argentina, lies a labyrinth of marble mausoleums and cobblestone paths, a cemetery that looks less like a graveyard and more like a city of the dead. Its name is La Recoleta Cemetery. Within its walls rest Argentina's presidents, poets, generals, and aristocrats. But visitors say that along with its beauty comes a haunting darkness. For when the sun sets and shadows fall across the tombs, La Recoleta is alive with phantoms, whispers, and restless souls. And those who dare to enter after dark often leave with stories of encounters that chill them to the bone. La Recoleta was established in 1822 on the grounds of a former monastery. Over the centuries, it became the final resting place for Argentina's elite, the powerful and the wealthy. Its mausoleums are lavish works of art: marble angels, wrought iron gates, stained glass windows, and family crypts that resemble palaces. But beneath its grandeur lies tragedy. For death knows no wealth, no power. And with so many lives and so many unfinished stories, La Recoleta has become one of the most haunted cemeteries in the world. Visitors report a strange phenomenon as dusk approaches. Long before the gates close, shadows move where no living person walks. They slither along the marble walls, darting between mausoleums, sometimes even appearing in the shape of cloaked figures. Tourists often mistake them for other visitors until they realize they are completely alone. Night watchmen claim the shadows sometimes follow them silently, footsteps echoing on cobblestones just out of sight. But when they turn, there is nothing but cold stillness. One of La Recoleta's most famous legends is the tragic tale of Rufina Cambaceres, a 19-year-old socialite. In 1902, Rufina was pronounced dead after collapsing suddenly. She was placed in a coffin and entombed in her family mausoleum. But days later, when workers returned, they discovered the coffin lid had been broken from the inside. Rufina had been buried alive. Scratch marks lined the wood. Her hands were bloodied from desperate attempts to escape. She had awakened, only to die a second time in terror. To this day, some visitors claim to hear scratching sounds near her mausoleum. Others hear a young woman weeping. And many say they've seen a pale figure in white drifting through the cemetery at night, the restless spirit of Rufina. Another tale speaks of El Guardián, the cemetery's ghostly watchman. A caretaker in the early 1900s was said to have taken his duties so seriously he never left his post, even after death. Visitors often see a tall man in an old-fashioned hat and cloak standing at the gates. He watches silently, sometimes even nodding at passers-by. But when approached, he vanishes into shadow. Paranormal researchers believe this apparition is the guardian spirit of La Recoleta, protecting the dead within its walls.
A stranger legend surrounds the ghostly cats of La Recoleta. The cemetery is known for its population of stray cats cared for by locals. But some claim that certain cats appear and then vanish before their eyes. Witnesses have described stroking a friendly black cat, only for it to dissolve into mist. Others say spectral cats guard specific tombs, refusing to let people approach. Whether spirit guardians or omens, the cats of La Recoleta are a mystery that remains unsolved. La Recoleta is also the final resting place of Argentina's most famous woman, Eva Perón, or Evita. Beloved by the people, hated by her enemies, Evita's body endured years of political turmoil after her death. It was stolen, hidden, even desecrated, before finally being laid to rest in her family's mausoleum at La Recoleta. Many believe her spirit still lingers. Tourists report hearing footsteps near her tomb, or whispers in Spanish calling her name, Evita. Some even claim to see a woman in a flowing dress walking the paths at night, her face shadowed but unmistakably Evita. A tourist once reported taking a photo of an empty pathway, only to find two shadowy figures standing in the image. A guard claimed he heard footsteps behind him every night for a week, always stopping when he turned. Paranormal groups have captured EVPs, whispers in Spanish, urgent and emotional, with no living speaker in sight. Why does La Recoleta echo with shadows and voices? Some say it's because of the sheer number of souls interred, over 4,500 mausoleums, many holding entire families. Others believe the cemetery's violent history, tragic deaths, and unquiet burials have left behind scars, energies that manifest as phantoms. And the most chilling theory? That the shadows are not ghosts at all, but something darker, feeding on grief and fear, using the dead as camouflage. La Recoleta closes at sunset, but some say if you linger too long, you may not leave. For when night falls, the cemetery belongs not to the living, but to the shadows. If you hear footsteps behind you, do not turn. If you hear a woman weeping, do not answer. And if you see a shadow standing still at the end of the path, pray that it's only your imagination. La Recoleta Cemetery is not just a monument to Argentina's history. It is a place where shadows breathe, whispers linger, and the dead walk among the living. And those who enter its marble gates at night must remember, the dead may rest in peace, but the shadows never sleep.